Well, we filed the action and we have nowhere to go but up for the people. Good morning. My name is Clem or Clément Chartier. I'm the current president of the Métis National Council. However, to be clear, I'm not here in that capacity. I'm here as a citizen of the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan. My home is in Buffalo Narrows, and I have concerns myself and local president Jim DeRocher from Illa-La-Crosse, two past presidents of the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan, do have concerns about the recent developments where the Métis Nation has stripped the rights of the Métis citizens in Saskatchewan to vote in the upcoming election scheduled for May 29th. Historically, or at least since 1989, when we reverted to being the Métis Society, now the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan, all Métis had the right to vote simply by showing up at the polls. And as long as you're 16 years of age and over, you had the right to vote. You also had the right to seek elected office. However, over the past year and a half, there was a movement which came to its conclusion on February 20th, where our Election Act was amended to state that only those Métis who are registered with the Métis Nation Saskatchewan will have the right to vote, including those who have applied by March 30th of this month will have the right to vote. At the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, the clerk of the Legislative Assembly, who is also the chief executive officer of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, announced that in the debate that there were 11,000 eligible voters up until that point, and that, of course, it was still open until March 30th for people to apply if they wanted to vote. At the start of the Assembly, President Glenn McCollum stated that the MNS represents 80,000 Métis in the province of Saskatchewan. So a lot of people are not happy that in excess of perhaps 60,000 have become disenfranchised. We are here for the people, and we are here to defend the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. In December of 1993, over 900 Métis gathered here in Saskatoon and adopted a constitution for the people. A constitution based on our inherent right of self-government, recognized under international law and also recognized and affirmed under Section 35 of Canada's Constitution. This is a constitution based on our inherent right to self-government. And we are here to protect this constitution. What happened on February 20th is the Legislative Assembly, many not fully aware of the implications because the dialogue really wasn't there. It was a scripted assembly with only those amendments that the Provincial Métis Council wanted to see passed presented. Others who wanted to make amendments did not see their amendments tabled and discussed and voted upon. So what we have as of February 20th is no longer a government of the Métis people in Saskatchewan. What we have is a step backwards to pre-1993, where the MNS is nothing more, if this is allowed to continue, nothing more than a membership organization. They don't represent now all of the Métis people in this province. They only represent those Métis that are registered. They no longer operate under the inherent right of self-government, but they're operating on a contingent right of self-government through an agreement with Minister Bennett, the federal government, that they will adopt a new constitution. And if the government likes it, then they will pass federal legislation giving it force of law. We rejected that in the 1980s. We rejected a contingent right of self-government because we said the inherent right of self-government is ours. It's within us. We are one of three orders of government in this country. And again, what the Métis Nation Saskatchewan has just done is reverted to being a club, a membership club, no longer representing the Métis citizens of this province. But we're standing up for the Constitution. We just filed an action this morning seeking an order from the court that the Constitution prevail over the legislation. The Constitution says there is universal suffrage in this province. All Métis 16 years of age and up have the right to vote. It's very clear. And the Constitution itself says any Métis 16 years of age and over has the right to vote. So we are here to defend the Constitution against the current leadership who is taking us decades backwards in order to strike any kind of deal with the federal government at the expense of our inherent rights, at our expense of the right of self-determination as a people. And we will stand, and I know people out there will stand with us in defending this Constitution, the people's Constitution. We are doing it for the people. Okay, we can respond to any questions that you may have. If, yeah.
So, could you clarify what exactly the legislation that was passed on February 20th was? It made it so that only registered Métis members could vote, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The Métis, well, the Election Act was amended. Prior to that, any Métis 16 years of age and up would simply show up and swear a declaration that you're a Métis, that you're 16 or over, and then you're allowed to vote. With this amendment, it's only those that are registered or have applied for registration by March the 30th.
So this legal, are you hoping this legal action actually reaches a decision before the election on May 29th?
Well, yes. If it doesn't, then it's a moot question because the election will have taken place. So we're hoping that the court will expedite the hearing and will render a decision, by hopefully April 29th when the writ is dropped. So courts can do that. And in fact, the Queen's Bench Court in 2014, 2015 heard a number of cases. You may want to do some research on that. And the primary judge was Justice Sherman, where there were conflicts between what they called the Morin faction and the Doucette faction. The Morin faction won the election in 2017, and I worked 3 years to get them in there. And they won. But now it's the Morin faction with Glenn McCallum as the president that are taking this action against the very people they were defending in 2015.
How long does it take for someone to become registered?
Well, that varies. I applied for my card. I put in my registration in April of 2019, and I got it within, I think, 5 months. There are others that I know that are saying it's been over a year, and they're still waiting. So it all varies. But what they've said is those that apply before March 30th will have their application reviewed by the registrar. And if the registrar thinks that they have a good chance of being registered, they will be issued a letter saying that, you will likely be registered, and they'll use that letter as proof at the polls.
And what are the requirements for someone to be registered?
Well, in 2002, the General Assembly of the Métis National Council adopted a definition of Métis, and it simply says you have to be of Métis Nation ancestry, you have to self-identify as Métis, and you have to be accepted by the Métis Nation. It also says you have to be distinct from other Indigenous peoples, basically meaning you can't be on an Indian registry, Indian Affairs registry, and also on, be a Métis Nation citizen, because at this time we don't recognize dual citizenship, and so that's what it is, and that's the criteria that you're looking at, and you have to have, proof that you are an ancestor of, or a descendant of an ancestor that was part of the historic Métis Nation. And our nation is based in Western Canada. It covers the 3 prairie provinces and extends a bit into northwestern Ontario, a bit into northeast BC, a bit into Northwest Territories, and a bit into the states of Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota. That's our historic Métis Nation homeland. And those are the people that are being registered. And those people from our nation living within the boundaries of Saskatchewan are being registered with the Métis Nation Saskatchewan.
What would you say to someone that's not going to be able to vote on May 29th if these rules are still in place?
Well, I think we probably would encourage people to show up anyway and make an attempt. But I have firm and full belief in this judicial system. And I believe any judge looking at this will say the Constitution gives or recognizes your right to vote. So I believe any judge will say, like the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, like the Constitution Act 1982, that trumps any legislation. Legislation that violates the Constitution is struck down. I believe the Métis, well, the Election Act, which violates the Constitution, will also need to be struck down. And the courts have always recognized our Constitution, even though it's based on our inherent right and not registered anywhere. So if they follow their precedent, if they follow the law, the common law, constitutional law, they will say this prevails and the people cannot be stripped of their rights by mere legislation. So if that's it, I thank you all for coming. coming out on this. Oh,
Do you know how many people are registered and how many are yet to be registered or not be part of it?
I don't have hard facts, but I did listen, and it's online. The Legislative Assembly that took place February 20th and 21st, and in it, the President says there's 80,000 Métis in the province that they represent, and the chief executive officer, who's also the clerk, explained during the debate that there are 11,000, a little over 11,000 eligible to vote out of about 13 to 15,000 that are registered, because everyone, all children, everyone can be registered. Okay, but it's only those 16 years of age and over that can vote. So we don't know, but when parents vote, or to be parents, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they're voting not just for themselves, but for their brothers, smaller brothers and sisters. They're voting for the whole community. And so a lot of people are being affected by not having that right to vote. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.